All right, let's talk about fear and excuses. This has been something that's been really coming up for me and a lot of prospective clients that I've been talking to lately, just the last week or 10 days. So I really want to have a conversation about it because it's really, really, really important. First of all, if you are watching this video and you are not in my free group yet, I really encourage you to join. It's Relationship of Your Dreams, Masculine and Feminine Polarity, and I will provide the link to that free group because you're going to get so much amazing free information just from joining, and it can really be the start of changing your life. But yeah, so let's dive into this subject. So fear and excuses. There's two main reasons that people have lives that really suck, right? And we'll talk about love lives here because that's more of what I deal with, but this is applicable to everything. So there's relationships, there's financial life, there's just career life in general, all that stuff. So one is a lack of information, right? And just learning the wrong kind of stuff, making all of these mistakes, just really going in the wrong direction. But for most people, that's not the number one thing that holds them back. But you definitely do need the right information in any area of life, in any area of your life, or of course it's going to really suck. But the bigger problem for most people is that they are essentially trapped in fear, right? And the interesting thing about fear is often it is so it's so sneaky and pervasive that it's kind of often like a fish in water where you don't even really notice it because you are trapped in this. Man, I don't even know how to explain this. It's like you're trapped in a prison. You don't realize that you're in a prison because you never even get, like, say it's like an electric fence, right? You never even get close enough to the fence to actually get shocked. So you never even do much in your life to actually experience fear, right? And this is because of your ego structure, right? It's an ego survival program. It's a belief survival program, and it's always trying to keep your beliefs intact, right? That's what it does. And it will do this using fear, but it will also do it using excuses. Okay. And when you get really good at just listening to your own bullshit, your own excuses that your ego is telling you, you are essentially just staying trapped in that prison, right? And if you think of that as like a comfort zone, so you're always staying in that comfort zone, you're always staying in that same pattern of behaviors that you've always exhibited. And how has those patterns of behaviors worked out for you so far, right? Well, look at your love life. Is it good? Are you getting exactly what you want? If you're a woman, do you have a devotional man who's taking care of you and meeting all of your needs? If you're a man, do you have a woman who fully respects you and isn't trying to control anything and is just submitting to your leadership and is vulnerable and just loves to receive and appreciates your gifts? Because if you don't, part of that is information, of course, not having the right information, but part of it is you are trapped in fear patterns that are keeping you stuck, fear and excuse patterns. And this, like, the funny thing about this is you won't notice how scared you are until you actually do the thing that breaks out of that pattern, right? So, for example, just as an example for women, if you are terrified of being vulnerable, you might not even feel much fear that comes up until that moment when you want to be vulnerable, and then you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I'll do that later, or he won't care about my feelings, or whatever it is. A whole bunch of excuses will come up, right? And And then you don't do it. And then you stay trapped in your comfort zone and nothing ends up changing. And you just continue the destructive, self-sabotaging behaviors that has been not getting you what you want all your life. And on a bigger picture, this fear really comes up when it comes to commitment to change, right? And that's why, coaching programs, for example, can be like, of course, there's great coaching programs out there and then there's terrible ones. But ultimately what it really comes down to is that choice to make a commitment of like, I am sick of this bullshit. And I really just want to change my life. And I am committed to changing my life, right? That's hard for people to do when they are stuck in these fear patterns. And it's easier to just like dabble, like I'll read a book here and there, or, I'll just like, get a bunch more free information or whatever, and I'll try something else. But there is no commitment. So it's really easy to just back out, at any point. You can just be like, oh, I'm going to just continue doing what I've always been doing. And for most of those people that are not really willing to commit to their own growth and breaking out of everything that they're afraid of, I'm not going to say all of those people, but most of those people, their love life is going to suck forever. I'm sorry to say it. Now, hopefully, I'm going to say hopefully, hopefully they're going to have some really traumatic, painful experience that is so terrible that it forces them into a position of just choosing to grow and commit, right? And sometimes that's a divorce. Sometimes it's a really bad breakup. Sometimes it's you got cheated on, something like that. Most people will say like, oh, that's a terrible, like, how could you ever wish that on somebody? No, I think that's often the best thing that can ever happen to anybody, is one of those terrible experiences. Because that's often what it takes for people to shift out of their fear and into real transformational growth and get all the things that they want out of life. Now, the easy thing to do, the better thing to do, is just shift now and choose to make that commitment to grow without that horrible traumatic thing happening. Unfortunately, that's just not what is going to happen for most people. It's unfortunate, but that's simply the reality. Now, for me, like that's happened twice in my life. And the first time was when, I was 23, as a virgin. I thought I'd be a virgin forever. My love life is a complete pathetic joke that would be like, I'd be great in casting in 40-year-old virgin or something like that. And it wasn't even that traumatic, but it was traumatic for me because I was just my beliefs were so delusional. I like had built up this fantasy world that like I was attractive to women and women liked me and all this kind of stuff. And it was all based on lies, right? And I was living really in fear because I wanted to keep that belief intact, but for it to be kept intact, I couldn't take literally any risk with women, because if I did, that fragile identity would come crashing down, and it would it's obviously nonsense. And what made it crash down was something really simple. I actually tried pushing through one of my fears, tried kissing a girl on a date. She rejected me. And then I went home and I cried for 3 hours like a baby. And that actually, that for me was my first really traumatic experience, where after that, I just fully committed to growth, right? And then I spent, 10 years just meeting women and pushing through every single fear I had, getting rejected thousands of times, doing all this crazy stuff, because like I kind of hit rock bottom. Even though it wasn't really rock bottom, for me, that felt like rock bottom. I thought I was going to be alone forever. Nobody even wants to fucking kiss me. I'm pathetic. Nobody wants to have sex with me. That's it. That's it, right? Now, if I had just committed to change years ago, there was so much information available to me. Like I was getting emails from, pickup artists and all these gurus and all this stuff, and I'd read them and I'd be like, oh, I don't need that. I'll figure it out on my own. Just nonsense excuses when I needed that help more than like pretty much anybody in the world. And I would make excuses for it because I was terrified, even though I wasn't fully feeling that fear, because I was so in that fear prison and just listening to the excuses, I wouldn't even get close to doing a scary thing with a woman. So I didn't realize just how terrified I was. But no, absolutely, I was terrified. And that's how most people live their lives. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same fears that I had. Other people, it'll be like this fear of setting a boundary, or, walking away from less than they deserve, or, just trying to think of other fears. For a woman, like just really letting go of control, right? For a man, just speaking his truth all the time. All kinds of different possibilities, but most people are living in fear, and that's why their relationship sucks. That's why their love life sucks. That's why their life sucks, and that's why they're in pain, right? Most people are living in pain for most of their lives, and most are in denial about it. And so it's really when that fear gets bad enough, painful enough, and often that's a point where there's some kind of really terrible experience. That's when it's like, okay, I need to change, right? And that's why, like, so for example, most of my like calls, my discovery calls, where we men and women are interested in the Dominant Man or Radiant Woman Academy, it's often when people have hit a rock bottom, like a breakup, or a divorce, or it's just about to be a divorce, and it's just an act of desperation. If people had just figured it out like 2 years ago, okay, this is not exactly what I want, I'm going to change now, you wouldn't have had to get it to that place, would you? Right? But that's a difficult thing for people to do, to really make that commitment to just change now. And I want people to ask themselves, like, right now, do I have everything that I want in my love life? And am I fully the person that I want to be? Right? Like, am I fully so if I'm a woman, like, am I fully just able to be vulnerable all the time? Am I able to just like fully let go of control? Am I able to be like soft and like flow away from anything that I don't deserve? If you're a man, am I able to just speak the truth all the time to my woman, like tell her what I want, lead her every step of the way, set really solid boundaries, all of that kind of stuff? Can you do that? And do you have that relationship that you want? Well, if you don't, then how about getting that fixed and pushing through the excuses? But here's what's going to happen. Like, you'll even be listening. This is the great thing about this. You'll even be listening to this live stream. What are the excuses for you right now? Right? What are the excuses that you're telling yourself why you don't need help? Why you don't need to do something truly transformational? Is the excuse, oh, I can figure it all out by myself? Is the excuse, I'd rather spend my money on something else? Is the excuse, I'll do it later? Is the excuse, it's just not bad enough yet? There's unlimited amount of excuses. The ego is an excuse making machine. That is why it is literally a supercomputer when it comes to making excuses. And the people that choose to always listen to that supercomputer are going to have the worst lives. The people who have the best lives are the people that will listen to those excuses and laugh at them and think that they're ridiculous, and completely ignore them and realize that that is not truth. That is just your ego trying to convince you to not do the thing that you need to do. Now, I got really good at learning to not listen to my excuses, because I did the whole pickup artist thing for years, with a high degree of integrity as far as picking up women goes, never lying or anything like that. But, to do that, I would see a pretty woman and I want to talk to her. And then what does my ego say? Oh, you know what? I'll do the next one. Oh, you know what? There's too many people that are close. I don't want to do that. Oh, maybe she's not as like great as I thought. You know what? She kind of looks like a bitch. I'll just talk to the next one. Unlimited kinds of excuses again, right? And I had to train myself to stop listening to all of my excuses. I would listen to them, but like I'd hear them. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to that. I know that's crap. And then I would just push through that fear. So and I've done that literally, we're talking tens of thousands of times where I feel really scared and it's like, no, I'm just going to do that anyway. Most people don't do that, right? Most people almost never push through, like they might push through a few big fears in their life, like a few dozen or whatever, but most of the time they will make excuses because here's what it is, because their comfort is more important to them than real growth, right? Than transformational growth. It feels easier to just stay safe and comfortable until it gets too uncomfortable for you to stay in it anymore, right? Until it's like you get to that point where it's like I cannot deal with how painful my life is anymore. I need to change this now. How about starting to change it sooner? That's always your choice. That is always 100% your choice. And that's how you really start to shift into a growth mindset, right? When you stop listening to the excuses and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to continue to do things that are really, really uncomfortable for me. I'm just going to really commit to my own growth in whatever way possible. And do the things that are the most scary, right? That's how I started as a pickup artist is, I did a $3,000 pickup course for a weekend. And I was scared shitless, 100%. But I needed to commit to something. Otherwise, I knew I would be stuck forever. I would be stuck as a 40-year-old version, probably a 60-year-old version. Because that was just my trajectory. I was just so avoidant of everything. I was just so stuck in excuses all the time. And here's the interesting thing is that, like, if someone, like, I don't care who the fuck you are, like, I don't care how many problems you have, I don't care how much trauma you have, I don't care about any of that stuff. If you are really committed, like truly 100% committed to solving your problems and getting what you want out of your life, you can do that within somewhere from like a number of months to like a few years, depending on how difficult your situation is and the level of commitment and the level of courage that you're willing to exercise all the time. And obviously you need to find the right information too, because if you're committed and you're just find crap information, then you're not going to go very far. But what most people end up doing is, like, the ego is a genius. The ego is a genius. That's why I call it a supercomputer, because its goal is to survive, to keep its beliefs intact. It doesn't give a crap about your happiness. Your happiness means nothing to it. And so what it will often do is get you to it'll convince you that you are doing like real work and changing and doing all this stuff. And you'll even like go into, people who will go into like programs, like courses, that kind of stuff that aren't really good and don't even have like a high commitment level or anything like that. And it's just enough to convince yourself that, oh, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing all these great changes. I am so focused on my growth. I'm such a great person. And you're not really doing much, because the real solution, the bigger solution, is not what you're stepping into, right? And so navigating your own ego and your own excuses it's a huge undertaking to really master that, right? Because most people never really go very far at all, and they stay stuck in those excuses their entire life. And that's why you look like most people who are like 60, 70, 80 years old, do they have a really happy, awesome life? No. They were stuck in their fear prison their whole life. They were stuck in their excuses their whole life. And now they're experiencing the fruits of that, right? That doesn't have to be you. And it all comes down to a choice to commit, to change, to get out of whatever you're experiencing and become the absolute best version of yourself that you can be. Who said I'm happy you didn't go down the pickup artist route? I did. I did for like a decade. But it wasn't like the mystery method, like sleazy, ridiculous lines thing. I didn't do that. I just did. It's like I saw a girl, I'm gonna tell her how pretty I think she is, and just radically honest about what's inside of me. I just want to tell her how beautiful she is and have a conversation and lead, right? And lead from that point on. Lead towards what I want. And some people still won't think that's the best thing, but that's certainly what I needed at the time. We got any other questions here? I'm just saying. I don't think so. Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I've got to say on that. So fear is such a, you know, you really got to listen. I really want you, people who, if you've watched this video, right, I just want you to reflect afterwards. Like, just, so here's what I'll say. Is your relationship amazing right now? Or your love life amazing? Like, how great is it? Is it fantastic? Is it exactly what you want? You know, are you really happy and satisfied? Okay. If you're not, here's a solution. Go to relationshipofyourdreams.com. Book a call with me. We will talk all about the problems that you're experiencing. We'll go really deep into it. We'll really just dig into those issues and what's going on and how you're feeling and all that stuff. We'll have a real conversation about it. And if you are really committed to doing the work, then we can talk all about the Radiant Woman Academy or the Dominant Man Academy, and you can change your life, right? You can completely change your life, and that's a choice that you have. Now the question is, right now, and when you finish this live stream, what's going to happen? What are you going to be thinking in your head? Are you going to be coming up with more excuses of why it's not the right time, or why it's, you know, just not the right thing for you, or why you're not good enough, or why you'll never be able to get the results, or whatever excuse? Or are you just going to book a call with me and like, we'll talk about your problems and find out, right? Can you feel that subtle fear that's trying to hold you back from that? Can you hear the excuses, right? Are you going to believe them this time? Or are you going to change your life for the better? That's up to you. And that's all I got to say. Relationshipofyourdreams.com. It's up to you.